Now, folks, a couple things. I'm getting lots of emails about the CNN sound bites that we played. And they all make a really great point. Those sound bites, that report last night on CNN on Anderson Cooper, was more truth about Obamacare than anybody can remember anybody in the Republican Party making other than Ted Cruz and Mike Lee. And I just want you to remember something, folks. Whenever you hear these truthful horror stories about the massively increased costs that everybody is going to encounter, or the vast majority of people, I want you to remember it was Ted Cruz and Mike Lee who tried to stop it. It was Ted Cruz and Mike Lee who tried to defund it, or at least tried to delay the individual mandate. Now, remember, we're supposed to hate Ted Cruz and Mike Lee for doing that. The Republican Party says so. The media says so. The Democrat Party says so. They tried to stop it. They tried to marshal support to stop this. They worked very hard. They put themselves out there. By the way, Ted Cruz went home to Texas this past weekend. He made a series of appearances and speeches, and the man got an 8-minute standing ovation in San Antonio. Now, I want to ask you something. When is the last time you saw an elected Republican get any kind of a standing ovation? Have you ever seen John McCain get one, for example? Now, some of you might be shouting Sarah Palin at me. She was, I guess, governor of Arkansas. I don't mean to be diminishing her with this. I'm talking about elected, in office Republican, or somebody in office campaigning. When's the last time you can remember seeing that? And my point is the idea that Ted Cruz has marginalized himself out of any influence or power or out of the Republican Party is flat out absurd. And I'm reminded again of the Pat Buchanan column that I quoted extensively to you from, in which he drew some analogies to the Republican Party Convention San Francisco, 1964, and all the establishment types who did their best to kill Goldwater off and wouldn't have anything to do with him and wouldn't campaign for him, and their futures were sealed, doomed. They never amounted to anything in the Republican Party. Nelson Rockefeller, Bill Scranton, George Romney, they never amounted to anything. Richard Nixon was the one guy, aside from Reagan. Richard Nixon and Reagan were the two people that stood with Goldwater and actually campaigned for him harder than he did for himself. And they both ended up being rewarded. And it was Buchanan's old saw about history repeating itself. If you don't remember, it's just doomed to repeat itself, or whatever that phrase is. It was trying to make a point here that down the road, the people who are going to be rewarded by their party's voters, are the people who were out fighting for them. And I think the people who have written me about those sound bites on CNN, people were surprised. Nobody watches CNN, and I played these sound bites, and people were just stunned. And then again, this Cornell Belcher guy, the regime official who was on CNN and gave Anderson Cooper grief for having run those stories, he was getting tweets all over the place from Obama supporters going, "That's right, you hammer Fox, Cornell. You tell them the truth, Cornell." So he was very satisfied in terms he got his support from his people. But most people watching that were learning for the first time what a boondoggle this is. People that watch CNN, obviously. But the point is that those three stories, three citizens, three people, their stories, Republican Party could have found those people, could have put them in ads, could have done any number of things. Didn't do it, don't know why. Could have, but didn't. And outside of CNN, there weren't any Republicans. And this is true. That you don't find Republicans ripping into. In fact, Jeb Bush today, I think we've got the soundbite is out saying that what Ted Cruz needs to do now is come up with his own alternative to Obamacare. And that's exactly what's wrong, with all due respect. That's why we end up in this mess after mess after mess. The Democrats propose a mess. The Democrats propose government expansion, and the Republicans think they've got to have their alternative. There are a lot of Republicans that think this way. They're reactive. They believe the Democrats run the show, so when the Democrats come up with an idea, they automatically conclude people will want it, so they've got to come up with their own alternative, like immigration. We'll do it, but we'll do it smarter. We'll do it, we just won't call it amnesty, although it will be, but we won't call it or whatever, instead of just saying no. So now the pressure is on, well, not much pressure, but Jeb Bush says it's up. Now, Ted, in other words, you just can't be a naysayer. You just can't say no. You've got to have an alternative. No, you don't. The alternative to what the Democrat Party wants starts with no. And the alternative is to start getting rid of government-run things. I mean, we've got right in front of us, again, the best evidence in the world that government can't do these things. No matter how well-intentioned, no matter how big their hearts, no matter how big their desire, they just are not capable. They do not have the best people. The best people are in the private sector. The theoreticians and the people that gum up the works are in the government. And it's just the way it is. So the alternative to a Democrat proposal starts with no. And then you say what we're really going to do is we're going to reduce government's role in health care, and we're going to reduce government's role in airport security. We're going to reduce government's role wherever, and we're going to contract it out private sector where it can be done right and cheaper, more efficiently, as it always is in the private sector. It's always done better, it's always done cheaper, and it's always done more efficiently. Problem is, the Democrats have demonized the private sector so much that average people think that private sector companies want to kill them. They're customers. They want to steal from them. They want to kill them. They want to make them sick. They want to make them fat. They want to destroy their lives. This is what the Democrat Party has been for 50 years. Take a look at its enemies list. So why do we need an alternative to bigger government that is itself bigger government? Just say no. We're not going there. How about instead of waiting for the Democrats to propose something, why don't we? Just out of the clear blue, propose something and make them react and follow along. Well, we'll never get covered, and they'll reap us to shreds, and so forth, and all that. Kant never did anything. The evidence is clear. You can't have a better illustration than what's happening right now of government incompetence. They're just, folks, this is, in a way, it's not a godsend, but I'm telling you, we've got this notion that government can do it better because government cares. The thing that is, in many people's lives, the most important thing to them, their health care, is being screwed up royally. What another opportunity to teach has been presented here. And we get crickets from the GOP. We do. And I'm not saying this to be critical. I'm trying to be helpful. But I'm just an entertainer. Never forget that. And I'm just trying to, Pied Piper you. Because I really don't mean anything I'm saying. You'll hear that in the soundbite.